So you think that this is useless? You think anime just wastes your time? Well, you're wrong. Anime and manga can help you learn not just Japanese, but any major language out there. Let me show you how. First off, I get it, I know. You might look at me, you might see this sexy milk chocolate Saitama and you'd be like, this dude is too well put together. Clearly, he is not a weeb. Maybe he watched like Attack on Titan and Dragon Ball Z and he thinks he knows anime. Oi, 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 oi. 俺のこと舐めるな、小僧。俺様が200以上のアニメを見たよ。And through the hundreds of anime that I've watched and dozens of manga and webtoons that I've read, I've been able to pick up Spanish, French, Japanese, Russian, and currently I'm bald head deep in that German. Yes, we can. There is almost nothing better than anime and especially manga.
I have the power of God and anime on my side! Wait,
Let me explain. It comes down to two things: motivation and comprehensible input. Motivation-wise, anime and manga and manhwa and manhwa, whatever you want to say, is it is addicting. It's like you don't have to motivate yourself to watch it, to read it. You gotta motivate yourself not to. Like you gotta tear that candy away from that 5-year-old. Like, that's mine. And it is amazing to actually have content in your target language, aka the language that you're learning, that is addicting and sweet. So sweet to watch. Mainly because your waifu is in it, but I mean, what can you do?
Excuse me.
Hey! And thankfully, most major anime are dubbed into a lot of major languages. I mean, just because I'm learning Spanish doesn't mean I want to watch reruns of telenovelas from the 90s, although they're kind of nice though. Nah, give me that nota de la muerte way. And when it comes to manga and webtoons, I mean, you can find so many translated into almost every language imaginable. C'est un truc de fou. Motivation aside, next up is comprehensible input. Now, what is comprehensible input? Well, if you're not a nerd like yours truly, you've probably not heard of it before. Basically, comprehensible input is this. Let's say you're on an airplane. It's probably happened to a lot of people. You look over and that dude or that girl to the right of you is watching like a super interesting movie, but obviously you can't hear what's like going on in the movie, but for whatever reason, like your movie's boring as hell and you just watch theirs even though you can't hear it. But honestly, you watch the whole movie with them, you probably will understand the gist of everything that happens in the movie. And you're probably gonna get some glances that are kind of awkward. Like they look back and you're like, oh shit, I wasn't watching. But comprehensible input is basically that. It's when you understand the meaning and the gist of what you're watching or what you're reading, but you don't understand all or any of the words that are being said. It's super important, and anime and manga are great vehicles for getting this kind of input because there's pictures going on and you can see the emotions on people's faces and you can kind of guess what's going on without actually understanding every word. And it's also great for getting an intuitive sense of the language. So eventually one day when you do try to speak it, you don't sound like Google Translate. Alright, so now that you know anime and manga isn't a complete waste of time like your parents say it is, how do you actually go about turning your anime and manga consumption into something that can help teach you not just Japanese, but any language? So this is broken down into two things: passive learning and active learning. So passive learning wise is like, you're always gonna pick up stuff when you are watching your show, even without putting in too much effort. You might pick up things like vocab, grammar, phrases, a new crush, without even realizing. And then again, if you just put on English subtitles and assume that you're gonna pick up the language, you're not. There are millions of weebs out there who've been watching anime for tens of years and the only thing that they can say is yada yada yada. I mean, passive learning is good, especially if you're watching your content without English subtitles, but it's not the best. The best, or the crème de la crop, no, you don't say that, Franglish. Ugh, disgusting. But the best of the best is something called active learning. Now, active learning, are you still watching? Get back on this video, boy. God, it's the disrespect for me. Anyways, how do you actively learn from anime and manga? All right, anime first. So if you are watching an anime, you want to do the following. One, you want to find an anime that's dubbed into whatever language that you're learning. So for example, Death Note in Spanish or Hunter x Hunter in German, etc. And I'm going to explain where to find everything in a little bit. Two, you want to make sure that anime isn't complex. Like, listen, we are not about that nuclear physics anime life. You want to stick to school anime or just slice of life in general. That type of anime is perfect because most of the words in the show will be normal, everyday words. Three, you want to watch the show using subtitles in the language that you are learning if possible. So if you're watching an anime in Spanish, see if you can find it with Spanish subtitles as well. Same thing with Japanese. And if you are too new to the language to do that effectively, then I would recommend learning a few hundred of the most common words in that language to get you a head start to start being able to use target language subtitles. And number 4, for the same reason why I got a lot of acne scars everywhere, you gotta pick. When you're watching your anime show, you gotta pick out words and phrases that keep popping up in the shows that you watch and add them to a spaced repetition flashcard program. I'll tell you which one you can use later, but basically in non-nerd speak, what that is, it's like a smart flashcard program that helps you never forget the words that you learn. So that's anime. How do you actively learn from manga and webtoons? Well, one, you want to find a manga or webtoon that's translated into the language that you're learning. If you're learning Spanish, for example, try to find God in High School, but translate it into Spanish. Number 2, again, you want to make sure that the subject or the theme of the manga that you're reading isn't too complicated. Or if it's complicated, like for example, there's a lot of like words like dungeon and knight and dragon and magic. That is fine if it's your favorite genre and you read a lot of content of that genre. For example, I'm super into fantasy and gaming, so I've already read Berserk, Solo Leveling, Omnipresent Reader, The Gamer, Overgeared, and a bunch of other gaming related webtoons. So while words like shield and clan and armor and sword aren't the most useful in everyday life, they're actually relevant to me and useful to me. Again, I am a nerd. これは我がの剣だ. That would be really cringy if I wasn't half black, but you know, thankfully it's Black History Month, so I'm cringe immune. And number 3, and lastly, you want to do the same thing as with anime. You want to pick out words and phrases that keep popping up. Now, you don't want to try to translate every word that you see that you don't know. That's going to get really annoying really quickly. You should only translate and add a word to your flashcard program when you keep seeing it popping up, or if you get a sense that based on what's going on in the manga that it's a really important word. Like, this is a super big point for both anime and manga. Whether you're learning Japanese or German or Korean, in the beginning it's going to be rough because you're not going to know many words. And no lie, you're probably going to get quite frustrated that you can't understand what's going on in the anime that you're watching or the manga that you're reading. But you need to know that this is perfectly normal and that it does get better. I promise you, if you add a few words from anime, from manga into your flashcard deck every single day, after some time you will start understanding more and more and more, and the content that you consume is going to get more and more interesting. Lastly, if you don't want to go full Angry Baby from Spirited Away mode, then you need to treat actively watching or reading anime and manga as study time. This is not sit back, relax, watch 800 episodes of One Piece with English subtitles and magically assume that the language is going to get in your skull, because it's not going to happen. I mean, you do of course want to enjoy what you're watching or what you're reading, but also know that the goal is not to know everything that's going on in the story. Doesn't matter if Sakamoto is going to the festival or he's going to the store. The goal is to only try to get the gist of what's going on, you know, just like when you're watching someone else's screen on an airplane, and of course to jot down words and phrases that really stick out to you. Wakatta no ka omae. Next up, tools and resources. Alright, so for anime, for manga, like how are you going to find that tantalizing good stuff that's actually in your target language? Well, for anime, it's a bit simpler. So Netflix is going to be your best friend. There's so much anime on Netflix, and in combination with a really cool extension called Language Reactor, you are going to be able to learn your language while watching any anime that you want. Obviously on Netflix, any Netflix original show usually comes dubbed in a bajillion different languages, so you can choose what language you want to watch the anime in, whether it be Spanish, French, German, Turkish, Russian, whatever. And with Language Reactor, it's really cool because you can just simply tap on a word that you don't know to see its meaning, and they even keep like a list of all the words that you tapped on, so later on you can kind of add it to your flashcard deck. Aside from Netflix, Google is always your best friend. When you find an anime that you think is worth to watch, you can always Google, you know, let's say it's Demon Slayer, you can put Demon Slayer Spanish dub, or let's say it's Attack on Titan in German dub. You can search that on YouTube, you can search it on Google. Eventually you will find that stuff. Aside from that, if you're learning Japanese, some people of my community have been talking about a website called Anime Long or something like that, where a lot of anime is subtitled in Japanese. And aside from that, just in general, I've definitely found like Spanish dubs of certain anime on YouTube, sometimes Vimeo, even Avatar: The Last Airbender. Is it an anime? Is it not? No one really knows. And then for the spaced repetition software that you want to use, I would recommend Anki. It is kind of like the default one that everyone uses. It's a great flashcard program. Or I would recommend you to get on the waiting list for my upcoming app, because we're going to have flashcards that are leagues better than Anki, that have tons of language learning specific features built into them. There's going to be a link in the description for the waiting list if you're interested. So for manga, it's a little bit more tricky, but because manga is almost like a book, they are translated into a lot more languages than you'd find like dubs of anime for. Google, again, is your best friend. You want to Google whatever manga or webtoon you want to read, and you want to Google to see if it's available in your target language. Aside from that, there's a website called webtoons.com, which is super useful. They have translations of their webtoons and their comics into many different languages, and it's personally helped me out so much with my language learning and finding like a bunch of different really interesting webtoons in my target languages. And again, you want Anki or my upcoming app. Maybe you'll be out by the time you watch this video, who knows. Sign up for the waiting list or I will cry. Not lying. But yeah, that is essentially how to learn any language through anime or manga. Trust me, it is super powerful. Obviously, there are some drawbacks. Sometimes in anime, they kind of use some kind of cringy words or cringy phrases or unrealistic things that people wouldn't really say in real life. And you do have to work your way around it. But 99% of it are words that are going to be useful. Obviously, sometimes you can be watching an anime or a manga, and then all of a sudden, like you're feeling a certain kind of way and you're visiting some kind of websites. Happens. And sometimes you just get so hooked on the story that you forget to actually write down new words when you're watching things, and you just like, you peace out and you stop like actually language learning and you just watch the show. But in my experience, anime and manga are invaluable tools. For me personally, I like to set a rule of like, for every 60 minutes that I'm watching an anime, I want to jot down 6 new words. So it's like 1 word every 10 minutes. And similarly for manga, every few pages I want to look up a word, translate it, and put it in my Anki deck or my app. And it's really helped me out, especially manga, just because you can really see like the expressions on the face, and you know, you can really take your time, and even if you don't understand everything in like a caption, sometimes you can really kind of just tell what they're saying by the pictures, and it's really sweet. I've read all of Berserk in Spanish, all of Solo Leveling in French, some random webtoons in Russian, the beginning after the end in German, and it's just super fun. But yeah, that is the video. I hope it was insightful. If you do also want some more red hot, tantalizing, exciting, entertaining language learning advice, then be sure to check out my video course, The Ikenna Method. It is an amazing course. It really teaches you step by step how to learn any language in the most effective, efficient, and fun way possible. It's entertaining, like this video hopefully was, and I cover a lot of my special techniques, tips, and tricks that I use to learn languages in months instead of years. And the course also comes with exclusive access to my Discord server where we all help each other learn languages. So if that's interesting for you, it's currently on sale. I believe it's like 50% off for a little while longer, so check it out. This has been an amazing video. Hope you like the t-shirt, and I will check you out you will check me out? I don't know. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.